Mitensho, Privet. Assalamu alaikum. Hi everyone, Yakni Thak here. It's been a while, and I've been in the Brampton, Ontario area. It's a very multicultural, diverse area with a multitude of kindness and a multitude of unkindness. And I'm finding myself personally and currently struggling to maintain a optimistic outlook every time I leave my front door. The reason I bring this up is recently one of my preferred streamers, just to see for what I thought was an honest take on certain situations, not that I agree with them or not, just that I believe that this person was honest, is from a recent troubled person named Asmongold, who had a very, let's say, profound take on a very difficult situation to have any sort of a take on. I'm not here to talk about which side and this person and that person. What I want to talk about is the similarities that I've witnessed in this person's second upload pertaining to it with their apology and the cathartic, the very self forgiving and self improving possibility that doing so by being open and honest with yourself, even in a public format. He has essentially written a diary page with his video upload. And if you're not old enough to remember what a pen or a pencil is, people used to write down every day in their diary what they had done that day, how they felt. And now we all have access, if we have internet and some form of a device to record ourselves. And I thought it was kind of touching to see somebody going through a process of grieving when they might not have realized that a lot of what's occurring currently in their life is them unraveling through stages of grief that they've never sought proper counseling for. I can't say for certain if this man, Asmongold or Zach Rohr, has gotten any kind of therapy, but it would seem to indicate that he is open to it, professionally or not. He is accepting of faults that he himself openly admits to himself and others that he wants to change. And ultimately, in this fast paced world of sharing information, whether it's true or not to other people, if they're not going to do you harm based on what they perceive as truth or not, then it only matters what you think about yourself. And currently, I see a very vulnerable and confused and angry at themselves person in the upload by Asmongold. If you don't know what I'm talking about, hopefully you've heard of this, not through my little channel, but I will leave a link to his apology video. And perhaps it'll have a similar effect for you that it had on him and others that don't even know anything about the man, but they got drawn to it because of how popular it became because of the issues he tackled. So, one thing that this person addresses is that he makes a living, whether it's millions of dollars or pesos or yen or wherever you are in the world. He made a living off of farming the plight of others. And when that's the only thing on your farm, you never grow any of yourselves. And that's why I think it correlates very well to this wonderful journey of language study that I've done. This remorseful person has expressed a personal desire to take himself to places that he was saying very mean spirited things about, so that he's at least exposed himself directly and without, whatever influence from other media sources or editing and all this hoopla. He's going to put himself in the mud and see if it's actually dirty or not. And I think that's wonderful. And I think you can do this similar as I do through the study of language. The exposure to the cultures doesn't mean that I agree with what they do. Language is culture, culture is language. But it's up to you to pick what you want to take from these things. So, yeah, the things that this man talked about, I think it's terrible. Whatever he's talking about doesn't have to be put in the way that he put it. What he did talk about and the way that he put it is only going to breed hate on both sides. No matter what occurs, people are going to feel personally attacked. The other issue is when you do something like that, he's doing it in a form, he's isolated himself, as he said, and I've done similar, where I grew up through a early childhood trauma that I was fortunate enough that family helped me, allowed me to stay in their lives for 42 years, 43 years before I even sought any therapy. When I finally took the therapy and I realized that every time I felt giddy and happy about pointing out something that wasn't going well for someone else or some imperfection in them, I didn't feel happy at all. I actually took a piece away from me and them and whoever was around. So everybody lost, even if you don't think about it right away. As you get older or you get wiser, which I'm not wise, I am not a wise person, but I really want to be. And watching this guy's recent upload has helped me realize when you give a good apology, others believe you. When you give a great apology, you and those others want to improve themselves. And it helped me seeing this man currently go through. My mother recently passed away a year ago. Not, yeah, it's almost been a year of cancer. And it was a very quick journey for her. She got diagnosed, had an opportunity to go to London, Ontario, one of the finest cancer treatment therapy places on the planet. And she passed away in less than 6 weeks. There wasn't as much pain as in her passing as others might have. And it really wasn't that much of a total loss for me because after therapy, it wasn't that I looked for positives and I don't look for positives in things. I just noticed them. Whereas before, I had these negative blinders on my whole life. Trying to hide everything. It's going to be bad. After this therapy and self-reflection and realizing, like Asmongold says himself, if the world tells you that you're being the asshole and you keep denying it like I used to, you're going to be isolated. And now you're an alone, isolated asshole with no opportunity for recovery. Fortunately, such as himself, I've had a constant supply of honest, strong people who care that help me financially, emotionally, finding housing. I've gone through many things that I won't divulge in this video. But if you personally know me, you know some of the things that I've went through. Whatever your problems you're going through as well. When you make a effort to diversify things that make you positive and happy and want to get up in the morning, all of a sudden you start collecting little bits from other places you never thought possible. And for me, it's not just the study of language. It began with that because I started studying language during a COVID lockdown and I was isolated in a one-room hotel for over a year. And in Canada, we legally weren't allowed to go out of our homes for almost a year unless we were on our way to a very nearby store to buy necessary items. And the Canadian government was paying us 2,000 Canadian dollars a month if we were working and couldn't work because of the COVID stuff. And that's when I first realized that boredom is the product of zero curiosities. And there was an opportunity across the street from me, right across the street, of a language being spoken called Gujarati that I never heard of in my life. And I went to shop every day. And I thought, it wasn't even just about the notion of self-improvement. It wasn't purposeful. I just said, hey, I'm bored. That seems interesting. I wonder if I can teach myself another language. Whatever you think you know in another language, you'll never know it all, including English. And that's what's kept me going on this journey. It's like your life. It never ends. The journey of your life never ends until your time is up. So while you're on this planet, I think it's very possible to find things for you. For me, as I said, it's a never-ending journey. The collection of knowledge, whatever you're trying to do to better yourself, it's a never-ending journey. Never ends. So Asmongold, one of the worst journeys paths that you can be on life, which myself, I was in those dark places. I really was. You'll see at the start of his journey, as he says he's going to clean his room and he's going to use it as a penance. I forget the word he used for, I'm not religious, I apologize. However, when you take full accountability of the mess of you and your local environment and you start cleaning it, as he says, people don't catch certain words in the speech that he's using. When you use the word closure, that's where it connected to me. His mother recently passed away, and he's realized that he doesn't know what he's been doing for the last 2 years. It's been a blur. It's been a sloppy, messy, de-evolving, regressive blur. And he's been sharing it and spouting it like venom to his community. And you can see the shame and the embarrassment that he feels because he's sharing such a hateful thing with the world. And I've done it myself. I spent almost 40 years being a bully of some sort throughout my life when I was younger, as I got teenager, as I was all. I'm very fortunate that I never had my body broken by adults when I used to be a teenager, driving forklifts at places where guys are smoking crack and drinking alcohol, and they're only there because they got to go to jail. And they actually worked just so that they could get out of jail for the middle of the week. I worked with these guys, and I thought everything I said was perfect. And nobody on this planet has, there's never been a more perfect human being. Wherever I am, I'm the most important person. That was my mentality. Because whenever real, honest people would challenge that mentality, I would isolate. And I don't look for confrontation. Asmongold's not looking for confrontation either with his sentiments. He's not looking for you to agree with him. He's sharing his true, honest belief. The difference that you see in him for most people is that he finally woke up to saying the message is not what's bothering people, it's the delivery. You got to be careful. When you start delivering things to anybody, think about it, even if I don't use it, but if you have an Amazon driver that needs to deliver a package to your porch and they see your dog is, over here barking or whatever, and they pretend to throw a kick at the dog and they yell at the dog, hey, that's a human reaction, no problem. But then you answer the door and you're like, oh, don't mind the dog. They just had a surgery. There's something going on that's medication, and they get aggressive towards you. It doesn't mean that they're a bad person, and it doesn't mean that they want to fight or you should fight with them. It means usually that they're full of anger themselves, because whatever usually comes out when you're poked just a little bit, the first thing that comes out is usually what you're full of. I've been honked at by an elderly woman in a parking lot that legally I had the complete right of way. Legally, I was walking where I should have been, holding a coffee. This woman was trying to beat somebody who was going to cut in front of her to get into a lineup in a drive-through, and she honked at me kind of aggressively. And instead of doing a mature thing, I said something to her that I'll never forget. I can't forgive myself for what I said. I forgive myself for why I said it. Asmongold won't be able to ever forgive himself for what he said, and I see that in his response. And you recognize it in yourself as well. When you look in the mirror, or you look in the mirror of your mind's eye at yourself, and you say, my Lord, I can't believe I did that. The important part is that you start farming with that soil. That's the soil you want to plant your crops in that help you grow. Because the harder you look to farm the plight of others, you start being surrounded by just nasty, vile things. And you don't realize that it's abnormal behavior when you start doing it. I was very, very much this way for almost 40 years of my life. And I've had a lot of quality opportunities that I've thrown away because my ego and my unresolved childhood trauma issues. So I don't have any profound suggestion for you to do what you do, except for me to share what I found successful. And that was something that I looked forward to. Whether anyone else cared that I accomplished any goals of mine or not, doing that hobby, whatever it was, it made me happy. And it goes against some of the strategies I use to continue to study language in public, goes against the comfort levels of some people that I'm in public with. However, because I'm not doing anything harmful, we respect each other in that regard, that it doesn't impact anybody negatively. So for Asmongold to make millions of dollars by only pointing out the negative of everything, it caught up to him. It caught up to him a long time ago. It just became exemplified when he finally said, "My dad told me," and I shoved my dad off. And you can see the wisdom that others have when they're honest because they've had that experience that you've had. I have hope for this man, Asmongold, to do what he's planning to do. And I hope that whether you believe him or not for being sincere and in the apology, don't miss the message. Language is free knowledge. Keep talking.